So when I was thinking about what I was going to talk about today, I was inspired by the fact that we have some of our friends in our congregation are getting ready to go back to school, which is an exciting and important time, and especially that change, that opportunity. We have somebody going to kindergarten, we have someone going to high school, the new beginnings part of that. Because even many of us, it's been a long time since we went back to school, right? But we have new beginnings happen. Maybe we start a new job, or we join a new group, or we move to a new town, or we just decide to do something different. We've got new beginnings happening all the time. And what's exciting about new beginnings sometimes is that we get to do and be something new. Right? So I was reading a book, doesn't matter what book, it was just a novel. I was having a fun time. And one of the characters in the book went off to college, and at that point got to shed the silly nickname of his childhood, which was like Boober or something like that, right? Some silly nickname of childhood, and got to go by his real name, right? And all those people there knew him by the name that he wanted to be called, right? And so that's what's exciting about starting a new thing. You can be like, well, I want to do something different. I want to be someone new. I want to have a new name. And, that can be symbolic, but it can be much deeper than that. Because the outer, we can try new outfits. It's kind of a superficial thing, but sometimes it reflects our inner, what's really going on inside. And so I was thinking about that, and I was thinking that what came to my mind when I was thinking, well, what does that, connect to in the deeper spiritual truth? And there's a great quote from Romans: "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect." Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may discern what is yours to do. Ooh. Well, that's a great thing to do at this time of, summer's not over. I did not say that, but we're moving into the time where we're thinking about kind of getting back to like serious life. And so it's time to think about these things, renewing and so there's this really great resource online called truthunity.net, and they have an amazing searchable library of unity stuff. I think it's amazing. And so I found this quote that was a metaphysical interpretation of that piece of Romans from Unity magazine from December 3rd, 1950. Which is pretty neat, I think. So the question is, how do we transform the mind and body? Well, and so the answer is by renewing the mind. As we lay hold of the Christ, we gain the Christ consciousness, and the Spirit of the Christ begins to do the work of renewal in us. And then the other question they have: can we, of ourselves, by taking thought, transform our mind and body and heighten our abilities? And the answer, of ourselves, we cannot, by taking thought, add 1 cubit to our stature. I want to be taller. Probably not how we're talking about using our stuff. But by thinking of the Christ and claiming the power of the Christ in all that we do express a higher degree of power than we have known before. Lots of words. Okay, so what do we mean when we say the Christ in unity? Because we use it a little differently than a lot of churches use it. And so when we say the Christ in you, this is the revealing word, which is the shorthand version of how unity interprets things. Christ in you, the true light which guides every person coming, it says man, but they did not use gender neutral terms when they wrote this. So, the true light which guides every person coming into the world is and ever has been in humans. Even the outer was formed and came into existence through it. The true light. So the Christ in you, when we're talking about the Christ, we're talking about the true light, your God essence. Others may call it their Krishna nature or their Buddha nature, or, whoever your goal is for spiritual enlightenment. That's what we mean when we say the Christ in you. The best version of expressing God, Spirit, the Force, whatever you want to call it. That's what we mean, because I know that some people have issues with words like Christ and God and things like that, but we're going to get over it. So when we talk about being renewed by, what is it? Being renewed by the power of your mind and your thoughts, right? We are doing that all the time, right? So when we change our thoughts and refocus from whatever that might be for you, whenever we change our mind from that and switch our focus to the truth, the God ideal, the Spirit ideal, not that we're expressing it all the time necessarily, but when we change our mind to those ideas, then we are being, as one of my teachers, Paul Hasselbeck, likes to say, the best Christ we can be. We're not asking you to start walking on water and doing those things. I mean, that's a great idea and all of that, but, it takes time for us to get there. That's okay. So our idea is to be the best Christ we can be. And today, the best Christ you can be may be different than the best Christ you can be tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow will be better, but sometimes we have a day. So the idea of being renewed is by the power of our changing our thoughts, changing our mind. Sometimes it's changing our environment, like moving to a new place or being in a different job or starting a new group or going to a new school. That may be one way that we change and we decide we're going to be a new, better version of ourselves. But it could just be a new, better way that we show up in our everyday life. And that's the funny thing, right? Have you ever tried to be like, okay, I'm going to be a new, better version of myself. Like, I'm going to be really positive or whatever, but you still have the same people around you and they don't want you to be different. Oh, that's hard, right? It's like you're expected to behave in a certain way because that's the way you used to behave, and you're like, I'm just not really comfortable with that way of behaving anymore. That can be a really tough thing, because that is the moment that is very easy to be like, okay, I will conform to your old version of me because that is what is the most comfortable. And I know that some people, especially if they have elderly family members, maybe it's the path of least resistance and the most graceful way to go. That's up to you and your, that's between you and what is right for you and your conscience. But in our day-to-day lives, doing that is putting ourselves in a box, right? And even though it's hard to make new habits, when we make those outer changes, they do reflect an inner change. It's sort of one of those chicken and egg things, right? So we make an outer change that will hopefully have an inner change happen, but then we have to have an inner change actually happen to make the outer change actually work, right? Are you tracking with me? So I was thinking, so I had all of this. I was like, okay, so the main goal is for us to be the best us, the best expression of God, the best Christ we can be, right? That's the main goal of really all religion, is to be the best, most godlike version of us we can be. That's what you boil it all down to. That's what they're all trying to say. So I was thinking about this, and I was like, whatever I was doing, brush my teeth or something, and I was, good thoughts come to you when you're not always inundating yourself with other stuff, right? So maybe I was making my coffee. I don't know. I was thinking about something, and I was thinking about, I was thinking about how, like, when we moved here, my sister, China, decided she wanted a different name sign, because in sign language, everybody has a specific sign, and she wanted to change. And I was like, well, when you move is a great time to do that because you're teaching all these new people how to say your name, and you might as well just do it that way, right? So that's a great time to do something new. And I was thinking about changing names, and I was thinking about in the Bible, there's a change in name when there's a change in consciousness, right? This happens a number of times. Sarah becomes Sarah. She used to be Sarai, and Israel started as Jacob, and there's a whole bunch of them, and I didn't write them down because that was not my original plan. It happened later when I was making coffee or brushing my teeth or whatever it was I was doing. But that additional change in name is only means something if you make it mean something. And I know lots of people who on their spiritual quest decided that they needed to rename themselves because the name that they were born with didn't work for them anymore. And for whatever reason, I'm not judging. For them, that's what they needed to do to really feel like they could be who they were. More power to them. And maybe one of you are sitting here going, that name my parents gave me, meh. And personally, I've never really been that big a fan of Rachel, but I started going by Ray, short for Rachel, way back when I was a little kid. And so, people call me that, people call me Rachel, it's okay, it's no big deal. It's interesting, though, because that ah sound is usually when God gives you a new name in the Bible, it adds the ah, which is the breath. And I went with Ray. Ray. Interesting. So at 2.5, I'd figured this out. So it's interesting because maybe you want to change, maybe there's that physical, like I need to change my name or I need to change my location or something like that. But it could be something different. What am I called by in my world? We have a lot of other titles that we go by in our world that aren't our actual names. Do we want... So it's something to think about. I can't tell you the answer. Because only you know how to be your best version of God in expression. To be the best Christ you can be, to be the best Buddha you can be, to be the best Jedi you can be, whatever. So we just aim to be our best. And so when we think of that idea to be transformed by the renewing of our minds, every morning we start anew, right? We wash off, we brush our teeth, we wash off the consciousness of yesterday. We start the consciousness of today. Every day is a new beginning. Every moment, too. But if we just start with every day, that's good. That's why most of the time I meditate. One of the very first things I do in the morning is meditate because it's a good way to wash off whatever might still be remaining and create a good trajectory for my day. And so, to go back to the question, can we transform our mind and body and heighten our abilities, as they asked in 1950? Yes. Yes, we can.